like to bring this tri-board meeting to order on this day, the 18th of December. This is a virtual meeting and put out over the web. We're not going to ask for any comments from anybody who's watching, but for everybody here, there's a saying here. Please be respectful to others. Listen to what we have to say. Ask your questions if you have them. And I ask that you be respectful both to and from. And make another opening statement later. Would you please join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under justice for all. I move to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions, comments, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Purpose of the meeting. We come together once a year before the discussion of the budget. I was going to use a different term. But Michael Buffer has a copyright on it. Seems like last year things got a little bit, I don't know, different than meetings before. We're here to take a look at how three entities of this community can work together to be able to present the budget in the April time frame, somewhere in there, before or after, to the people of Columbia that best suits their needs. All their needs. It's not one section of the community over another. It's us as a whole. Last year's budget meeting, I was a little upset. We were pitting one against another, questioning people on why. I understand that, but it got a little contentious. We all live here. We have jobs to do. So I'm asking you, as we start our budget run, everybody looks at their departments, their responsibilities, do what you need to do for the people you represent, because that's what I do. Be honest, be fair, look at different directions to go, look at alternatives, because I gotta tell you, this is not a fun financial year. We have to bond for the first time in decade, maybe. We have infrastructure needs that could cause more bond. And that's just outside the routine stuff. I understand that there are times when we feel we have to rally the troops. I get it. I get it. But I want you to be factual. I want you to be respectful of anything you put out outside the meetings, because it'll be questioned. And you might get questions or drilled about it, you don't like it, but if it's not factual, you deserve that. If it's factual, you have no problems. That's everybody. So we're here for a reason, and every single one of you, I know you, and I know you're here on these committees because you believe in this town and your heart is right. I want to see that all the time. I do, because I know it's. We walk out of this room every time, whether it's a Board of Ed meeting over there, or a Board of Selectmen, or a 5-pack here, when we walk out of these rooms, we should try to be the solution for whatever the problems are in this town. A solution for the financial direction of what we need in this town. Okay? That's what I'm asking for. And I know you'll do it. I know you can. I know you will. But I ask you to be also respectful and listen. And if you have alternatives, present them. And if they can't be done, understand it. So, that's my opening statement. Every year I like the budget system. I like the budget process. Because in the end, I think we always come up with a pretty good budget. And we've been pretty tight, but we've always gotten through it. I don't think there's ever been a year where we haven't, each department given a little something back at the end. That's good. And we don't have to go and say, we need more. We've given back. Amen. Here we are, try to. We've got 5 months of negotiation back and forth. Solutions to come up with. I ask you to do your best. Thank you. That's the purpose of our meeting. Correspondence, you'll see the calendar right here. It can be adopted. I guess I'll put a motion on to adopt this, we don't have.
It's just for them to have.
You may have to meet more than this, you may not have to meet this much. Okay, this is the guidelines. Other than that, my time is up. You ready? Who's first, Bev?
Me.
Excellent. What a way to start.
Sound excited, man.
I'm always excited.
Yeah.
You'll see in your packet, numerous papers, hopefully you didn't mix them all up. The first couple pages is the Town of Columbia revenue report for the 23-24 year. And the summary of that, about almost $438,000 will be put into the general fund as of 2024. A good portion of that is about $262,000 from property tax collection. We haven't gotten confirmation yet, but their collection rate is somewhere between 99% and 80%. From what we got, it may change once we get confirmation from the tax collector, but I'm pretty sure it's up there. Education question grant, there was an additional $36,000 given. A big part is the state had leveled out the funding, so I think what we thought was being reduced, they put the money back in before they gave it to us. We did receive a municipal revenue sharing supplemental grant, which was unbudgeted, of $133,000 last year. Investments were doing very well. We had probably like a 4 to 5% interest rate, so that was almost $50,000 above budget that we. Real estate conveyance came in a little over 26,000. Transfer station stiffer was almost 13,000, but we had also put in a fee increase, I believe, last year. Yes, so that helped out. Permits, it was about $56,000 extra, which was not anticipated, and preschool tuition, we received an additional $23,000. Based on that, we did have a few things in revenue that did impact us a little. We decided to hold off requesting the LoSiP funds for last year. They'll be requested this year, so that was $155,000 not collected last year. Seeing the revenues that were coming in, actually, the revenue share. And with other things going on, we decided to postpone requesting that funds to this year, when we probably could use that revenue, so. That'll be done hopefully before the spring. The special ed education grant came in about 41,500 less than anticipated, but that's because of some changes in special ed costs. It was less than anticipated and students did not qualify for excess costs, so we don't get anything for those kids there. I think the threshold was about $84,000. So their costs came below that, so we don't get any funding for those kids. And then there was just a few small items like recording fees came in less, there wasn't as much land transactions than anticipated, and miscellaneous revenues came in about 3,500 less with it. We didn't get the permit equity distribution, they decided not to give it last year, and so we didn't get those funds, but overall based on a tight revenue year, we thought to have $438,000 put into the general fund, I think that's pretty good. So any questions on revenue?
Nobody have a comment?
Yeah.
So we talked about the tax collection that's going on 98, 99%. What we don't know, or some of you may, but we last year passed a farms relief, tax relief for existing farms that do in excess of $10,000 to $15,000 a business. They get a tax relief for their property. What you also may or may not know is in the state legislature, veterans disabilities, those veterans who have disabilities, their taxes are waived. Legislation kind of, I believe, made a mistake. They put disabilities, they meant to say 100% disabled, they did not. So the courts are looking into it, but right now it's veterans with disabilities. They may get taxes waived So-
That'd be this year though, right?
this year coming up. So what I'm saying is, we talk about the report that you've given us and what we may expect for this year, but there could be things in the back that we don't know about when we say, oh, we collected 99%. Maybe we did, maybe ongoing. But it's 99% of a lesser tax ability to get, so it may be less money. Just know behind the scenes things go on. Thank you.
Okay, so after that, the report says the town of Columbia actual and budget expenditures and encumbrances, that's the 23-24 year. There's about 9 pages. So the town of Columbia had a surplus at the end of the year of over $321,000, which is being returned to the general fund. A lot of that had to do with a lot of the salary lines. We had turnover last year, which resulted in savings in the salary line. We weren't using like floaters or substitutes as much because we were trying to cover offices with current staffing. Our fuel electricity lines, you'll see numerous surpluses. Besides negotiating better pricing on the oil and diesel and gasoline, we're also still taking benefit of, which expires this year, our electricity, I can't remember what the rate was. It's a lower electric rate, so we're having to save that. Plus, it's a little warmer, like the rains and everything, we're saving. Plus, we have some new equipment in the buildings that was saving on energy also, so we did well on that. We had health insurance surplus of like 65,000. We had staffing that we could turn over. We didn't have the health insurance, plus some people didn't sign on that we thought. Same thing with the 457 match. There was probably about $8,000. Again, less people were participating than we anticipated, but that's more going back into the general fund. Information technology, there you'll see a surplus of about 8,500. We had some IT projects projected, but due to time limit and other projects they've been working on, we postponed them into this year. Elderly services, again, a lot of that has to do with fuel and some maintenance repairs, less than needed. Although the maintenance on transfer will be able to touch base on that about next year, but we're not going to see savings in that line this year. Police protection was over $14,000 returned. There was a new resident trooper who was less costly than the one prior. So saving that. Yeah. Public Works, again, they have a big surplus. Again, they had some big staff turnover, so they're savings of about 26,000. Also, the fuel came in a lot less. Again, that has to do with the savings on the pricing. Rec area operations, which is rec park. There was like 7,000 returned, part of it's because they didn't, there were just purchases just not made last year. There was some changeover in the rec department, some things didn't get purchased. And other things we bought, but it was at low cost, so worked out. And then one of the big things is contingency, $29,000 was not needed for unanticipated, budget costs. So that's summary, operating. Any questions on that? Yes, question?
Why was the state, police officer less expensive?
He actually
What
got a
was that?
grant for,
Okay.
traffic and speeding, and that grant's been paying for overtime for traffic control with a previous resident trooper and any other resident trooper that wanted to take it.
Yeah, that's part of it. She did, I think she.
So that was part, we didn't have to have our resident trooper doing the speeding grant. It was available. I've changed not to.
Well, that was part of it. The grant was more enforcement, but there was also.
Two-thirds of the state trooper.
A newer one versus an older one is what you're saying here, right there. It's
No, it's the grant.
young,
No,
but she also said there's a newer.
Right.
Experience. But more, yeah, based on experience. That's what we were
I
saying.
guess, yeah, she just wasn't the overhead cost for her was less because she wasn't as high up as the other.
Right, she was on a lower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll move on to capital for last year. I gave a report just showing a list of all the projects in the lines. Just give you a reference point that we did carry over about $2 million into this year for capital projects. Some are just continuing funding, some of the projects are in process, some are finished and all that, but, some of the major ones that are being carried forward is the usual road resurfacing. Just, I think they were saving some of the, I think the new chip seal surfacing, they did the paving this year, there was box culvert repairs, so it was the start funding of that, which was included additional transfer in the spring of $250,000 to start the culverts and engineering on some of the culverts, I believe. One of the ones that was definitely work started last year was the Pine Street project. Thompson Hill was part of that 250,000, but I think they're gonna start working on that this year. Again, the continuing project of the HW Porter HVAC project, which you all heard it passed yesterday. But we'll talk about that a little more with the long range planning when we get to that part. And then again, another one that was carried forward was the fire department. It was almost $565,000, but that's for future funding of equipment and vehicles. So that's pretty much capital. And then that's, okay, so that's summary of the school capital, I mean, HVAC. I think they just cleared over all their lines, so there's nothing else around there. The next set of pages is the Board of Ed, they're the grants. The school budgeted $262,000, we ended up receiving almost $457,000. So the reason for the additional grant was, when Barb saw things available, we applied for it. One was a 3-year grant for school mental health, so last year we got $62,000. There'll be another 62 this year, I think after the year after it'll be like 49,000. They were able to get a grant called Right to Read, which is for the grades K-3 curriculum. So almost $77,000 was received last year to cover that. There's still $11,000 that's carried forward to this year, we'll spend hopefully next week. Another big one is the READ grant. There was a carry forward that we didn't anticipate last year. And they also received an additional 11,000 last year, so they used additional 34,000 to help cover classroom technology. So, that helped out a lot, so that was unanticipated to help cover more of the cost of the school. Chromebooks and some of the boards, like smart boards and things they buy. And another, good news with the award of the IDEA 9611. They received almost an additional $20,000 that we had not taken into account during the budget, because we didn't know that was coming, so. That definitely helped with covering some of the teacher salaries.
Just like thank Barbara for going after all those grants. Thank you.
The next set is again last year's, Board of Ed budget. Now, keep in mind that these numbers are net of the grant, so all the grants that came in were applied against the expenditures in this budget, so it helps supplement, not supplement, but help pay for things, in the budget that was budgeted. So they ended up with a surplus of almost $230,000 last year that was returned to the general fund. There was no funding contributed to the non-lapsing account, which remains at $300,000 for all anticipated costs for the school, pairs, special ed students. Some of the items that were contributing to this was there was savings with the combined position of the superintendent of special ed while they were searching for a new superintendent position. Congratulations, folks. There was also about $36,000 of surplus in transportation. Their big contribution to that surplus is because M&J provided the school back about almost $32,000 in credits each month for not having buses available. So they gave back to the school. We applied it to there. There was some magnet school tuition came in less than anticipated, it was about $7,500. You'll see a surplus line of textbooks. That's the right to read grant of almost $77,000. And then there was the technology equipment, you'll see a surplus of about $35,000. And again, most of that is because of the REAP grant that, gave that surplus back. So, and just so everybody knows, at the end of the year, besides the surplus, it would have been more, probably almost $500,000, but it was decided to use those surplus funds for needed projects at the school. There was security equipment and furniture purchase that came to about $6,000. There's a planned sidewalk replacement for the back of school here. There's landscaping projects that tie in with the sidewalks and drainage around the playground and the oil tank replacement. I'll get to that in a second. They're fixing up the bleachers, which was almost $11,000, and some playground surfacing that was needed $4,000. But the big item in all this is the oil tank replacement. It was found last spring that it looked like it was failing. So with this surplus, it was decided instead of going back to the town for funds and putting it in capital, they're going to use the surplus money for that, which the auditors are aware of and they're fine with it. We can keep track of everything. It was anticipated that it was going to be put in October, but there was some delays in getting a tank. So fortunately, they were able, seeing that now that the tank is definitely having issues, they were able to put in a replacement last week. Seems like a fog now. They have a temporary tank, 4,000 gallon tank. They got the school is on heat again, no worries. And hopefully by spring, there will be a brand new tank in the front of the school. And that's part of why we're having the landscapers come in. There will be a hole in the coming, I think it's the divider right across from Bard's office there in the parking lot. And they're gonna need, I think they're gonna try to do this without session, but we're gonna be routing traffic a little bit or something too. So it's all in the works. The oil company has been very helpful in getting this project underway and referring us to somebody else to save some money. The company that's bringing the tank in has been very cooperative, so that's the main driver of what they're spending their surplus fund on. But,
I have a question. Have they drained the tank of any oil that was in there?
The original one is down really low, they haven't fully drained it.
They haven't fully drained it? When you say it was malfunctioning, was that, you know? I guess you'd have to explain the malfunction, other than a crack in it where it was leaking. If it was just a pump or something, or filters or something, how did it malfunction to the tune of replacement? Unless it was cracked, and then,
Well, it had to be replaced just for the
The
age of it. The age, it's too old, so we had to get a new one.
oh, I thought you said malfunction.
It is,
And it has malfunctioned this week.
it did start malfunctioning in the last couple of weeks. They, I think Mike noticed, before school was out that the tank is very old, and I think there was some indications that probably within a year or two, it's gonna need replacement.
Okay, so my concern is that it's not cracked and it's leaking into the soil, we're gonna have a bigger environmental issue. That's why I asked about pumping the remaining oil out of there in case there's a crack.
So I don't think there isn't a crack. I think the one of the concerns with the tank was also the pumps. The pumps were not working, they were working overdrive, so that's why I decided, let's get moving on this thing, so.
Okay, so the bottom line is it malfunctioned because of the pumps, but the initial desire to change the tank was the age of the tank.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that clears it up. Malfunction is not age.
No, and as for the oil,
Okay,
the oil is, they were. Because of the delay in it, there was talk about moving, siphoning out the oil and putting it into new tanks, but because of the cold weather. They're down to the point where it wouldn't be good to transfer that into the temporary tank because it's got some flood and all that stuff.
well, the
So
bottom of the tanks always carry the sludge and everything,
Yes,
but
so
it
the
doesn't
timing-
make it,
the timing fortunately
can be
worked.
filtered.
When we were getting low, we were able to get the temporary tank in. And actually, everything is servicing much better now with the temporary tank than with the old.
Very good,
So,
okay, that clarifies it, thank you.
Or Mark, aren't those things capital? Couldn't they have been done on the capital budget rather than the Board of Ed budget?
So if you had to move it to capital, you would have to go to the town meeting. And all that. Normally it is, but we have talked to as long as we can afford it and you know, take care of what we need to, basically capitalizing depreciation, all that kind of stuff, it's fine. But because this is considered the funds were available, we can do it that way. Because at the time, we thought we were gonna get it done over the summer, but there was delays. So instead of going to a town meeting and delaying the process, we started the process of continuing.
Right, but so it came out of the Board of Education budget and it goes into the MBR. I mean, we already budgeted.
Yeah, it's not gonna affect the MBR because it's already in there. Yeah, so even if they return the whole thing, your MBR is not gonna change. Yep,
But we would have had more, so we would have been able to see
but then,
how much is available in terms of,
yeah, if you returned it, then you
Planning.
just moved it to capital, so
Right.
it's kind of,
but ultimately it would have ended up being spent. That's not the point.
Yes.
Which budget it comes out.
yes, but they've done it.
The goal of last year was to try to get a little bit more closer to what the real expenditures would need to be.
Yeah, that's why I kind of gave you a slight list so you can kind of see that you can add back 225,000 and more.
But Barbara, I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what Kelly's asking or stating. That's an awful lot of money to give back. So the question is, when the Board of Education comes to us with a budget, where did we find that many more grants? Did we have that many more changes in staff? Did we have that much less expenditure in areas that were unforeseen? That $150, whatever the tank is, $200,000, $150,000. Really gave back a large amount to the town, thank you, although it is kind of the town's people's money. Thank you, but the question is, that's quite a lot. And a big thing is, in the contention in here it was really over the Board of Ed budget, because it's 80%, 85% of our overall town budget anyway. Can you just summarize once again, because I know she read it off, how we were able to save or maximize grants, positions, whatever, to save $500,000?
Yes. So the half the time the grants we didn't know about, remember we had to budget last year for a new curriculum that was mandated. The state didn't tell us that they were going to offer funds for that. So we got over $100,000 for that.
Okay.
Then we got, as she mentioned, we got another grant for a mental health professional, so that helped pay for that salary. That's it. You know, each person, I kind of think of as about $100,000. If you do salary and benefits. So there's that. We had people who retired, or we had people who left, Porter School. And it's $500,000 after we do about half of it in grants, the rest was staffing.
Okay, thank you. I needed to explain that because I knew it would come up. It's the budget, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. you
Your
did
answer.
have-
Thank
you
you.
did have some stuff. There are numerous ones, and you had, I think, a leave or two that was unpaid leave. So some of that has to do with the staffing savings.
Okay,
That totally can't.
And that is the problem with the Board of Ed. Doing a budget for the Board of Ed, we do what we know that day. And then if folks move in who potentially need some services,
Right.
that's not budgeted. If, in the other way too, sometimes the kids that are budgeted for, or staffing that is budgeted for, they leave. So we don't, some districts will do holder positions or holder students. We don't, we do what we have, what we know.
thank you. Yep, very good, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the next couple pages is the Columbia 24-25 revenue. I'm not gonna get into too much detail on it. When, right now our July collection period went well. I think we got what we anticipated, which is pretty roughly more than half of the tax collecting, the budgeted taxes. We did receive the seed grant this year, because the project didn't finish last year, the Hunt Road culvert, so I was able, so once I heard it was, complete, I put in the application and we got $128,000 into the budget. So that wasn't budgeted, because we had assumed that would be completed last year. I don't think it was budgeted last year either, because we weren't sure when the project was gonna be completed, so there had been a couple of delays on that one. And so we also received a court judgment of over $16,000 from a very old lien from, it was over 5 years old, so that was a little surprise that we did not anticipate. As for the municipal state aid and stuff, everything seems to be what the state said they're giving us, they are giving to us. There was an anticipation, we thought, because of a strange email Mark and I got up and received about municipal revenue sharing. When they said we weren't getting it, it turned out we did get it, but I think they were talking about the big one. How last year we got, I mentioned, we got $133,000, it's a supplemental one. I don't think we're getting that one, we got the actual one, which is only about $27,000, so. So I don't anticipate they're gonna be giving anything extra this year. LoSiP is anticipated to get that this year. This year with the new allotment is gonna be about $200,000, so we're definitely gonna apply for the maintenance garage that was built at Rec Park, and then if there's funding left over, we can either carry it forward or see if there's another capital project we can apply to. There's a few options you can use it for. The steep investments are doing well, we're still getting about 5% return on those, so that's usually over 20,000 a month. And all the other revenues coming in seems to be coming in as anticipated or better, including permit fees and recording fees, don't seem to be. I'm looking at saying we could be above budget when we get to the end of the year. It seems people are definitely putting in more permits again this year. And, but that's pretty much this year's revenue. Questions? No. I'll just keep going. The next is this year's, town budget. It's still too early to see where we're going on that. There's probably some negative lines. There's being transfers are being approved tonight to help clean up those lines. There could be more transfers coming. There have been some unanticipated repairs to the buildings, heating and plumbing, public works equipment, vehicles, in the senior center vehicles, have all, we've had some above budget repairs and unanticipated repairs this year. Hopefully that's gonna slow down. But, we're keeping our fingers crossed. Right now, most of those transfers that we're doing are being covered within the budget and some contingency. So basically, after tonight's contingency, after all the transfers, contingency will be about $48,000 for the rest of the year, which is still a good shape. So hopefully nothing else will come in that we're gonna have to use all of it. And then just to move on, then we have a current capital budget report. You will see one line that's negative. That is for the facility improvements. That is because of the boathouse at Rec Park. We're putting that all through capital. The negative is just waiting for Kermit first of all, the building to be complete, which hopefully will be by the next 2 weeks.
Next year.
That's what we're perfect across. Kermit gave us an extension to file the plan. So what costs we have left, pretty much all of it should be covered, and hopefully that'll cover this deficit in that. So. we're keeping our fingers crossed, but they already said in an email, I got that, and they're gonna pay for it, so. So that should be done soon, and then probably in the dead of winter, we can have vacation. What else is next? Next is Board of Ed. I did not give a report on their grants, only because nothing has quite come in yet. There is a budget of $306,000. I have requested from the state about 130,000 in reimbursements. That's on its way. Although there is a new grant, you can know Bargains. Parents, they did apply for a $7,000 grant, and that's been approved this week. So there's 7,000 already starting to come in that wasn't anticipated. That will go into some training for the paraeducators. So hopefully more opportunities to come everywhere. But the next report is the Board of Ed's budget. Right now, there's, again, just like the town, no big concerns that I see. There has been some turnover of staff, but there's some savings because of the gap between hirings, but nothing out of the, I don't think we're going to anticipate anything big with those lines. Barb will talk about special ed as costs, and we'll get to that point. There are some unanticipated costs of special ed again. But there could be an impact, but right now we're covering it within the budget. So, questions? No. I keep going. I'm done with that.
Don't wait too long after you ask the question, because some people may find something.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
No, I'm good. I didn't say anything.
Okay, good. So I'm moving on. So now we can look at the key issues impacting next year's budget. Again, the tax base grand list, I've noted on the agenda, it will not be available until probably January.
Where are you looking?
I'm on item number 8 on the agenda. The domicile report. Those are coming, go right to the agenda. No. Sorry, which page are you on again?
In that,
I'm on the agenda.
there is no package.
Okay. I'll tell you when the next piece comes.
Go ahead.
So tax base grant list, the assessor is currently working on it. That's usually not done available till January. I know last year we had a slight decrease in it, so this year we have no idea yet, so that'll be sent out as soon as it's available. The tax collection rate, we're anticipating it stays about roughly around 98%. Well, like Steve said, there's been some changes in statutes that could impact a little bit of the collection. And as well, the grand list will impact the collection. Currently, there is no debt, but figure within the year, there may not be this fiscal year, but we may have to plan something for next year for short-term financing to get us through to bonding. So that's a discussion point with the financial advisors once we get through that. The undesignated fund balance, I did give everybody a copy of a report. That's the next one in your packet. So it hasn't changed. We don't have the final audit report yet. I'm trying to find out where that is. But I know they're working on it. So currently, as of a month ago, an estimated fund balance was about $2.4 million. So, and that's after pulling out $499,000 a couple months ago for the HVAC project. So it's still at 17%, which is, we're still in good shape. So again, this all depends on the rest of the year and how things are going. If we need to pull out more, depending on other projects, anticipated repairs and all that stuff, but.
How much did we take out of last year's general fund to cover portion?
So last year, we took out $325,600.
Thank you.
The $499 was taken out, the first $499 was taken out, this 22-23 year.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay, and then again, the next one is revenues for state of Connecticut, things seem to be coming in. Within budget, I'm anticipating right now any reductions or anything extra at this point from the state, but. Let's keep our fingers crossed if the grant comes up, but that's gonna apply for it. That's all I have for now. Then, no, that's down here.
Okay.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's Barb's turn. Is it okay to turn it over to Barb? Because you're running the meeting.
Yeah, please. Moving on, we wait.
So our projected student counts at this time for next year are about 454. As many of you know, we have 3 choices for high school, 4 if you include Wyndham Tech. So those are our counts at this time. Special ed costs, for next year, we've had a couple of unanticipated outplacement costs this year that we'll have to budget for. We've had to hire 2 paras that weren't budgeted for, one at the high school level that we reimburse the high school for, we don't employ, and one at Order. We had some students apply and get into magnet schools that we didn't know about, so we'll be charged their special education costs. And then we had some transportation in the area of special ed that we anticipate. I'm not that worried yet because we didn't have somebody move out, so it ebbs and flows, and it's pretty much too early to tell how far off that budget is or if it's spot on. Staffing, again, very early to figure out staffing, but we're beginning to talk about it. We have a current employee taking a vacant position. That current employee will be replaced with a 1-year contract. So that person knows it's not necessarily going to, whoever we hire will continue for the following year after the remainder of this year. but perhaps it hears you well. But we're just writing the contract right now for 1 year.
Is it a teaching position? Because of class size?
So we have a current teacher, we have an interventionist leave, and a current teacher is gonna fill the
Okay,
intervention.
thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, is that any questions?
Okay.
Why 3 choices for high school?
Why? That's what the town wanted, so it doesn't cost, and they're all the same price. The
But it-
busing will be the same.
But if, is there a minimum number to one school that if it doesn't reach that number, we don't have to pay for a bus? That school is out,
There at this point is no minimum number.
so it will cost us more for transportation?
No.
Okay,
We talked to the bus company about this and they said, well, I mean, they're gonna get an increase in their contract, but there's no extra buses or extra cost for that.
so how do you know the people in town wanted 3 choices? I never got a notifier saying, do you want 3 choices?
It was people reaching out to the Board of Education and my office, asking if we could add Branham High School to our choices.
Okay, and you said you had an added expense, one young person at high school needed a special ed,
I needed an additional person.
a paraprofessional. Did that person come out of Porter with a paraprofessional? I mean, did they have a para in full, if they attended Porter?
This is a new student.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay.
Question, but the 3 choices, was it just that they wanted Graham or did they actually want 3 choices?
They wanted Branham.
So it's not that they want 3 choices,
Correct.
they just wanted Graham
As an option.
as an option.
Yeah, there was, we did a survey, we did that survey.
Parents have been asking for years.
We.
No, I know that, I'm just saying that there's a difference between
The
just
survey
wanting
was
Graham
available
versus
at the
wanting
time.
3 specific choices, that's what I'm trying to figure out, was it the 3 or just Graham? So it sounds like it, because to me, I understood it was just Graham they wanted, not necessarily Wyndham and.
Bolton, Nancy.
Bolton, sorry, excuse me, Bolton.
Bolton and Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please, continue.
The next 2 pages, the last 2 pages in your packet are just last year's and this year's minimum budget requirement reports. We are in compliance this year because budget went up. Same thing like last year, there was a slight increase in the budget. So these are just for your reference points, so then everybody wants to see what the state says considered is above the minimum budget. So anytime the budget, every year you're supposed to keep it level for spending. I think you're allowed to go below a little bit, but it's a tricky calculation that the state doesn't share. Right now, to last year, we are in compliance only because of additional.
Okay. So I have a question, I'm sorry, because I thought I heard 10 minutes ago that the tank was covered under the MVR.
It's because it's included, is included in the money being expensed. The minimum budget requirement only applies to the budget number that the town allocated, town allocation. So if you're gonna use that money, excuse me, to pay a tank, the state doesn't care, basically, as long as it's for the school, it's okay.
Pay the director of works out of the education budget, they wouldn't care.
You know how it was budgeted.
Yeah, they look at the bottom line of the town, the amount of money the town approved.
You know, I don't know why I asked, man, I was thinking, because I could really care less about MVR, because it's all you appropriated, not what you spend, so it really
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yes,
So, I'm sorry I asked. Please take that off the record.
okay, so the
Please
next
continue.
section, oh, okay. So the next section is long range planning, so I think I'll turn it over to Mark and see if he has comments.
A lot of planning around the town really focuses on capital. And we've been trying to get ahead and hire professional services to get a better hand, especially on our infrastructure concerned with capital. We hired a company that came out and did a whole road survey Came back that our roads were in reasonable shape, up to 75% quality level, like a B rating. And to maintain that, we have to spend about, what was it, 400,000 a year on roads, Stephen?
At least.
At least, minimum to keep it at a B level that we are right now. And pretty much we've been spending about 300, a little over 300,000 a year on roads, so we might up that a little bit. We also have a big problem with Doubleday. We've had, one of our roads that is older infrastructure, that the culverts are metal and they've been collapsing, the road's been caving in. So we just went out to bid. We got a real good deal with a local engineering firm. And we met with him today, Steve and I, and Public Works Director Beth Lunt. And that's Mark Reynolds from Reynolds Engineering. And they're going to do a full analysis of Doubleday, come back to us with possible phased approaches to handle the middle of Doubleday where most of the drainage issues are probably first. But we heard possible cost of up to 5 million for Doubleday, but we haven't gotten anything back from the engineers. These are all assumptions.
No, but to piggyback on that, Doubleday was one of the worst roads in the survey.
Right.
So it have, if the drainage was wonderful, we still have to probably mill the road, repave the road anyway, and it's one of the longest roads in the town, so.
But we don't want to mill and repave a road that needs major drainage.
Drainage.
That has to happen first. The other two big problems that have come to light, obviously, from these last 3 years of epic rainstorms, where we have almost lost Pine Street twice at the Pine Street culvert, because the culverts are undersized for the massive amount of water that goes into Pine Street. And that's both at Pine Street and Thompson Hill. Those are our two worst culvert areas. We did get a state bridge grant for Pine Street, 50/50 reimbursement from the state. We haven't put it out to bid yet, but the estimates are at least maybe $1.5 million. So the state will cover 750,000, we'll kick in 750,000. The Thompson Hill, again, is yes, $1 million forward, hasn't gone out to bid yet. Haven't gotten an engineering estimate, but if that's $1 million forward, we're going to probably try for a TRIP grant through the state, through Council of Regional Governments. And a TRIP grant could pay for up to, we tried the state grant and we were denied because the culvert was too narrow, even though the redesign was within state grant requirements because they want them wider. It disqualified because it started out too small, which is why we're replacing the culvert, it's too small. But we were denied a state grant, we're trying a TRIP grant, and that's an 80-20 grant. But it's very competitive, I don't know if we'll get that, but if we do, we would kick in 280,000 and the state would kick in $100,000. So we're trying that route right now. And Doubleday is too soon to tell what will happen. So those are our big unknowns right now within the capital budget. And we've gotten, now, once we get the school moving and their HVAC air handling, most of the town buildings are all done. We have a little more to do at the senior center, and we just replaced a failed heating system in Public Works Garage with ARPA money, the last of our ARPA money. So that's underway right now. It should be done this week.
Who was the third grade? There was Doubleday, Pine, and Thompson.
Thompson Hill. Thompson Hill culvert, Pine Street Road culvert, and Doubleday Road. Those are the three big.
And the 50/50 grant was for which one?
Pine Street culvert. And then, normal stuff, we've had to put more into maintenance of our fleet, our vehicle fleet, because we just got our first dump truck. It took 2.5 years to get a new dump truck. So our normal cycle is off now, and we do not have a replacement dump truck. The old one was just too old to repair. Second one's coming, hopefully by the end of this winter, we'll have the second one. So it's been tough on maintenance. The maintenance costs have gone up because our vehicle fleet is getting older. And our street sweeper, we hold our fingers that it can survive. We actually were given an old street sweeper the same as ours by Mansfield, and we cannibalized it to keep ours alive. So we still don't have them, but those are very expensive. $350,000.
You make us sound really poor. But think that way, that's what I want. But first, I just wanted to say, the three people in that end of that table over there, that's Mark, Bev, and Jen in the corner hiding over there. They do a remarkable job, I press them all the time. Grants, find money, go after it, they do a fantastic job, and when we get a 50-50 grant on Pine Street, that's a big number. We went out and the Board of Selectmen took last year, we took a chance, we bet on a young company to do a job off of Hunt Road.
That road called.
And, the bids were coming in at 1.2. They came in at $550,000. We did our research, we took a shot at it, we did a hell of a job, a great job. But that threesome over there works every day to do their very best to save the town expenditure by reaching out for grants, shaking the bushes, you name it. So thank you very much. That's from me and the rest of us who don't, again, behind the scenes, we don't understand that. And I heard it over here on the Board of Ed side. Barbara, what she does over in her area, you said, keep going after those grants. We appreciate it. We don't see it. But when we hear about it, we deserve our thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And you'll have the contract. We just got the contract for the HVAC project. It's, it's over 750 pages long. Yes. Put everything into it, but we just sent it to the it's contract, what's it called? Jim Russo. Project manager. I'll get it out to you, Chris, and also to Michael Sylvester. And your committee can look at it, but we put in everything Kerma wanted for language to protect the town from liability. And it has everything that came back in the bid spec, plus our original town contract. So it should be ready to go for vendor. I'll also get it to the board select for final approval.
So we'll need the committee to meet just to review and approve.
Yeah,
Well, we can get a review.
What is it, 700?
Some papers.
yeah, a lot of it is the AI contract, which is the standard and our what is it? The senior architect language that all contracts have. What Kerma does, it has an addendum to say what doesn't apply, because the architects protect the architects and the engineers in the AI contract, not the town. So then our insurance company has to modify the contract to protect us.
Oh, sorry.
It's,
Thank you.
it's very painful. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Barb's turn.
For long range planning.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we talked a lot about the ELA, English language arts focus. Because we had that curricular change. So now, long range, we're gonna start diving into all the other, the math, right now, we use priority math. Down the road, but it's still aligned to the state standard. We have it for next year, but the contract will be coming up. So we'll be taking a deep dive into that, as well as science and social studies, just to make sure our kids are getting all they can possibly get. And our focus will be that teaching and learning. You know, if we have, new mandates from the state, which I don't know about, obviously we'll be planning for that. Capital wise, it's gonna be a lot to do this HVAC project. And then, looking at the rest of the building, we have, some plumbing issues, that kind of thing, so. Getting an entire, Mike Sylvester doing a whole study himself, and giving us lists of different projects for the long range. The Board of Ed and I will talk about doing a more formal facilities study at some point. That's where we are for now.
How many ways can you do math?
Oh,
How can social studies, that's kind of a thing called history, isn't it? It only changes as the next day becomes yesterday.
but the state changes the mandates of what you have to study.
Yeah, and science. Not to vote people out, but please, honestly, but that's just me. Go on. Thank you.
All right, and then I think the final agenda item is discussing of the general fund reserves and the mill rate. After the general fund reserves, like right now, like 17%. It's in good shape, we should be fine, with Judy at the helm, she's got a small committee, Mark and I are on it, we're writing basically, financial policies. They're almost ready, because we need those for the bonding anyway, and I guess we'll share those once we get those finalized, hopefully within a month.
Yeah.
But they're coming along pretty well. I know there's some tweaking Mark and I have to do on them too, so. But, you know, I don't think there's a concern right now as to the general fund balance. And as for the mill rate, I think everybody's kind of agreement, there's probably a potential of an increase for next year, so, just how much we're gonna do, and if we are gonna use any of the general fund balance, that'll be, I guess, a discussion point. Throughout the whole budget process or towards the end, so, I don't think there's enough information right now to dig deep into it, but I think that's just something everybody will have in their minds as we start the budget process in the meetings, I guess. Each board will start with the Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, will do February's meetings, and then by tactics. The pleasure in March.
Do you happen to remember what the increase was last year? We did,
When you see
the increase to the mill rate. So we
It was
increased it
like,
last year.
oh, yes, I did. I think we had it right.
we did.
It was. What's the last page? Oh, sure, my page is missing. Hold on, sir.
It's probably,
Oh, it's fine. It was, mill rate went to 2.21 mils or 8.55%. It's at 28.12.
So 2 point,
2.21. So we went up 2 mils. Yes, so I think the projection on if we were bonding and stuff was probably, was it like a half a mil?
Half a
something like
mil.
that? Half a mil.
Full bill following,
So we, yeah, because I think,
because next year is just short term.
I think we're looking
Fine.
at towards January or so, maybe to bond and then spring into the fall would be the short-term financing. Again,
Bond ran from 0.9 mil, 0.9, and then it decreased, but
I think it started at
0.9.
for
The
the
second, the first big pay is 0.9 mil. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
and that would
Comments,
be in this
questions?
budget year that will.
0.9 in the next budget. This budget will like be like a half a mil for the short term financing.
That's what I was gonna, so this year it's the short-term financing, next year it's.
Right.
The bond.
for the, starting in 25, 26 this year, right now, it depends on how, when I start construction. I think definitely this summer will be the electrical,
Hopefully it's sooner than that.
but sooner than that, yeah, depending when the equipment comes in, so there is some funds still left over, so it depends on how much that install is gonna cost and all
But
that.
you might be able to fund
We might
the electrical install with what we've already
allocate,
allocated from general fund.
so there's at least 300, maybe 350,000 left over, and what's been allocated that we can use hopefully without going to financing, so we can get that part done. And then it'll be next year. That's the hope. So, but if we need a little bit from general fund, I think we can probably afford it if we need to.
Then when do we get the grant money? And so is that the end of the project? So do
It's a reimbursement.
yeah,
So that's the thing is, I think as we go along, I have to find out, we have to make, we can put in progress reports and what we paid and they said, I think you have to wait till the check is cashed. And they said it should be, they didn't say how quick the turnaround is on the fund, but it's either we, you know, do every couple of months or whatever, or quarter, or, you know, depends on how it goes. That's something, once we get going, I can contact the state and find out, because I know there's a report that has to go.
so we only have to borrow our share, not,
No,
even though.
No,
it's
So you
the
can borrow
bond,
the full amount, then they reimburse us.
so the bonding amount is, not taking into account the, state
But
reimbursement.
we will not bond the state reimbursement.
Yeah,
Okay,
But
here's my
everything-
question. It says we have to be done by December 31st of next year,
Significantly, no.
significantly.
What that means,
so.
I don't know, almost, who's rolling the dice on that?
So from the emails I got with the state. I think they want to see some progress on this report, so if you get to a point where we're saying. Say we're gonna get a third, just because of holdups, it's just contacting the state, and if he says, go ahead, put in for the request, then I can put in the request. But if we haven't even started the project, I think we'll have it done. We have to show some
lot of.
basically commitment again to this project, so I mean, the more we get done, the better, it'll make it easier to get an extension.
We already had to put in a report on our progress.
Yeah.
So we said we were in the midst of getting. the-
Probably a short report, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's only a couple
We've
questions,
done nothing.
usually a couple questions,
I know,
you know,
but me and
but yeah,
sadly. Fun. Okay,
so. That's all I have,
so you have,
number 11 if you want.
yeah, yeah, but before, I'm just gonna make one other comment. In the meeting the other night, somebody stood up and said, the bond is only X amount of dollars per 100,000 of your assessment of your home. The round numbers was $50 for every 100,000 your home is assessed. And that's your yearly contribution to the bond that will pay for the HVAC. So if you own a home that's $400,000, you're gonna pay $200. But that's one piece of this town and what we need. Every $200, every little bit per 100,000 adds up. So I ask you, remember, put it on the board. Every bit adds up. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you very much. Ding, that's the bell. Round one, let's go. At this time, I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
11.
Thank you.
Sure.